Facebook advertising. One of the most significant things of the past few years, Facebook advertising has been on the minds of every business owner at some point in time. We see many people having successes with Facebook ads, yet many more feeling that they've wasted money or time or don't even know how to get started. We all know how powerful and helpful Facebook advertising can be for your business. And we also know how many mistakes can be made along the way, as well as the potential that's involved. So that brings me to this presentation today on Facebook advertising, the basic 3x3 steps from getting started to making really good ads. This I've learned in many years of working with several companies, including my own, Pancake Digital Solutions. And I'm really excited to bring you this information and hope with this you'll be able to learn something. Hello, I'm Rihanna M. Hill. Happy to be your teacher today. So without further ado, let's dive right into the wonderful world of Facebook advertising. So, who this presentation is for. You're watching this probably because you already have a business. It has a Facebook page and you have some familiarity with using that Facebook page for your business. You may have even boosted a post or run some ads in the past. Maybe you've had some success or maybe not. Hopefully you already have some kind of organic marketing in place, whether that's doing live video, that's sharing things on another social media platform such as Instagram or Pinterest, or you are going door to door, selling things to friends and family, or going to different markets. This presentation will really help if you've already sold some products, you have an offer that's been successful, so that you know for sure that it's something that people need and will buy. Aiming for about 45 minutes here, and go ahead and write down your questions. You can pause this at any time. I highly recommend you write down these questions though, because they'll probably get answered at some point, and if they don't, it's a really good resource for you to go and do more research or reach out to us to see how we can help you. So what I'm hoping that you'll walk away from this with, just to set some expectations, this is an overview. Facebook advertising is a very complex thing. The whole advertising industry is an industry, and I can teach you as much, a little overview as I can here, but the big thing to remember is it's a process, it's a learning experience. This is an overview that will help you understand some of the beginnings. Maybe when you're just getting started, it's a great place to watch a little bit from the beginning, and as you're going, you can watch each step of the way to build out your structure. So if you're somebody who's never touched Ads Manager before, you've never been on the platform, part one is really going to be valuable for you. This will help you figure out when the timing is right for your business to use Facebook ads, or if you even want to do Facebook advertising for your business or for your product. Now, if you've run ads extensively before and have some experience, part three is really going to be helpful for you. The first section will probably be an overview as well as the second section, but hopefully it will also point out something that maybe you didn't know and you can still learn something from it. But the final part three optimization section will likely help you the most. So just remember, as you're watching this, everyone is at a different stage within their learning process, and this is a learning process. You're learning something new here, and it may have been a while since you've done that. So have some patience with yourself. If you don't understand something at first, take a minute to watch it again or digest it, or just be okay with that. This is something completely new and different, and just because it's so easily accessible to everyone doesn't mean, just because for example, I like to tell people, you may be really, really good at using your Facebook profile, but Facebook advertising is a whole nother level. It's a whole nother step, like owning a car versus being a car mechanic. And so give yourself some patience as you learn this. I do want to point out that this is not going to be a specific strategy that's provided, that's a template that you can plug and play. Everybody's business is different. Your needs are going to be different from month to month. And, ad platform changes from month to month. If I gave everyone the same strategy and everyone out and used it, then it wouldn't be so effective anymore. And, someone selling a product is going to be incredibly different from somebody selling, a coaching service, for example. Unfortunately, this also isn't a one and done learn it all tutorial. The biggest thing about Facebook ads is that it's a process and you really learn it by doing. That's pretty much all I can say about it. It is a process, something that you check in on and on. So anywho, we will continue on here. A little bit of information, background on me, who I am, who is Rihanna M. Hill, and why you would want to listen to me for this. Just a few things. I want to point out that I've been working on social media for business since 2014, January of 2014, as well as managing Facebook ads campaigns, self-taught in 2015. Things were a little bit different back then for ads, but I've been learning on the job as I go and still do it to this day. Got a few degrees and read a lot and have taken some other classes and blah, 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 blah. So anywho, that's me in a quick nutshell. So let's get started with the actual presentation. But this is section 1 before you start. This is super, super important. And even if you've run ads before, I challenge you to go through this process to reevaluate the ads that you're running or to think about that next campaign you want to run. So before you even get started, first and foremost, determine intention. What is the point of running this ad? Why do you want to run Facebook ads? Is it because you think your business needs it? Is it because you want to make more sales? You want to get more clients? Yeah, that's probably what it is at the end of the day. But what are the goals here? What is the purpose? We've all heard of SMART goals. We've all heard of planning a little bit better. And Facebook advertising really, really fits into that. So if your whole goal is, I just want to try it out and see what happens, and then, oh, it didn't work, well, what does that exactly mean? Whereas if you sit down and say, okay, I want to get more traffic to my website, or I'd like to sell more of this specific product, you'll do a lot better with those specific kinds of goals. So before you even get started, really figure out and get clear on what exactly it is that you're wanting to do with this ad. What kind of outcome are you hoping to achieve? And not just, oh, I want to get more clients. What kind of clients? How? What's the process there? Is it phone calls? Is it purchases? Be very specific about those goals. It will really, really help. It'll also allow you to see if you were successful in the end. The second thing before you get started is make sure you know your numbers. I really encourage you to be very honest with yourself about what your budget is here for marketing. There's different types of numbers depending on where you're at in your business. Some people recommend around 10% of your income being towards marketing. Sometimes when you're in the beginning, you might need it to be a little bit more as you get started. But really, really be honest about yourself is how much money per month are you willing to set aside for these ads? And with that note, the time frame that you have to do it. I recommend not just a couple of days. The more time, the better, because it is a learning process that needs optimization and time to mature. And your sales cycle might take a really long time. What do I mean by sales cycle? I mean, somebody might see your product or hear about your service, and it takes them 6 months on average before they make that purchase. In the lead gen industry, that's actually very common. So you'll want to know that time frame in mind. Perhaps you have $100 that you can put aside for the next 6 months, and it won't stress you out. So write that down and know what that is and be really honest about yourself, because you don't want to stress yourself out spending too much money on something while you're first learning and getting started. Or as you're growing, you want to make sure you know those numbers that you're looking for your KPIs, your key performance indicators. How are you going to know when you're successful? Is it you're going to see how much it takes to hit 100 new hits on your website, or what it takes to make an actual sale? Do $3 worth of ads sell a $15 t-shirt, or does it take $20 to sell a $15 product? What are those numbers? And that brings me into margins. knowing certain things like your average order value. So maybe it takes $20 to get somebody to make a purchase on your website, but on average, they're spending $100. So that's pretty good margins there. You also want to know the lifetime value of a customer. So maybe it costs you $100 to get a new client, and their first service is only $100. But over the course of the next 10 years, they spend $10,000 with you. For example, just making up numbers here, that makes it worth it. So making sure you know those numbers will really, really help, because that can make your ads perform a lot better and figure out if it makes sense, if the timing is right for you to do ads in your business now. The other thing is if you have, so the buying cycle, and sometimes I get ahead of myself, forgive me. A little repetition can be good when learning something. But the other thing that's good to know is your closing ratio. So maybe you close one new client for every 10 calls. So how many calls do you need to book in order to do that? And these are things you can learn as you go, but these are really important numbers to help you figure out where you're at and to be really successful here. So I'll continue forward with the number 3. This is the third step of the first step for the 3x3, and that's making a plan. Facebook advertising is not a set it and forget it platform. It's not something like a radio ad or a newspaper ad where you do the designs and you do the purchase and then it just keeps running, and then you'll get in the info as it goes. Facebook advertising is a time commitment. It's really, really important that you check in your ads with some frequency. Really every day or every other day, if you miss a day, is incredibly important, as well as checking in on your goals. If your goal was to get more traffic to a specific page on your website, are your ads achieving this? Perhaps one ad is achieving this better than another, and so you need to update it so that you're not spending money on an ad that's not working. And these things can change over the course of a few hours. Well, 48 to 72 hours, an ad that was working might suddenly stop working. So you want to make sure that you have the time commitment to have yourself or somebody else checking in on it every couple of days, even just for 15 minutes, going through the data, making sure everything looks good, checking the comments and responding to the comments on your ads, even the negative ones, as a part of the process. The other thing you want to do is, do you have the capacity to handle the volume that comes in? If you turn on a whole bunch of ads and start making tons of sales, what happens if you sell 100 units of your product, but you only have 50 units and the rest is back ordered? That's a very possible thing. Or if you are a service-based business, be very honest. Can your company take 5 new clients at once? Can you do 5 calls a day? And if you can, that's awesome. Just make sure you have the capacity to handle the volume of what's coming in so that you can either scale back or scale up as you need. And finally, plan for something for the long term. There are companies out there and there are people out there who burn really hot and really bright, and they make tons and tons of money selling hundreds and thousands of products in a few months or sometimes even a few weeks. But those tend to be really, really high budgets and a lot of work. The most successful campaigns I've seen and I've worked on for the long term, and it's my preference, there's nothing wrong with those kinds of businesses. It's just not really what I like to teach. That's not the average. That's not something that most people do, is you're in this for the long term. You want a business that's going to last you more than a year. And so you want to be able to make sure that this Facebook advertising, there's a plan here that fits in with your perspective for the long term. Can you still keep checking in every couple of days a few months from now? So those are just really important things to keep in mind. So that wraps up the first section. Before you get started, what you want to do in order to decide if the timing is right for you to do Facebook ads and how to even get started before you touch your computer. So let's go ahead and move on to the second section. In the second section, we talk about structure. Understanding the structure of the ads campaigns is incredibly important. This is the foundations for how to build everything, knowing what is where and how it all works. So this very first one here is the campaign. If you look within the Ads Manager, you'll see that you have these tabs very similar to a Google Chrome experience. So your account will be everything, and that's not really anything you ever need to look at unless you're trying to get totals. But this campaign level here is the first step where you will set a campaign, such as, you see the different types of ad campaigns, and maybe there's one with a polar bear and maybe there's one with dancing people. Within the campaigns, this is where you're choosing your objective. This is where that intent from the first part of the first section comes into place. What is the purpose? What are you doing here with these ads? So for example, if the goal was to get more engagement, you want your audience to be commenting more on your posts, and so they know you a little bit better and they're a little bit top of mind when you want to sell something. This is where you select that engagement piece. If you're hoping to get more traffic, then you would select traffic here to optimize towards getting more traffic to your website or to your link. Now also remember the process of cold, warm, and hot. Just like you wouldn't walk up to some random person on the street and ask them to buy your product, you don't want to just go straight for the sale with your Facebook ads. You want to have a bit of the process there. So that engagement piece here, that first part is really important for getting that cold audience to your warm audience, and then letting that warm audience know a little bit more about you and getting them into that hot audience group there. So that is something that is important to keep in mind, that you have your ads fit through this process as well. So the second one here, the second section for the structure, the first one here is your campaign. That's your top level here. So when you're editing an ad, you have this section. This is your top level here for your campaigns, and this is where you set your intent. The next level here for the structure is the ad set level. So that would be this one here, and this one here. Or this one here, this second little tabby here. Those are the two locations where you can see it. Now, within that ad set, that is where your budget is determined and where your audience is determined. These are the two most important things, especially as you are beginning and getting started. You can also adjust your placement, your bid, your time frame, deciding if you want automatic bidding or manual bidding, but this stuff is a little bit more advanced. And to be honest, there's very few scenarios in which you need to use this, unless there's some sort of sale where the coupon only works between the hours of 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. for some reason, or if you have, with placements, that can become something as well. For example, on link clicks, if you're getting a ton of link clicks, but you're not getting a lot of conversions, you might want to turn off audience network. But the most important thing is where you're setting your budget, either setting a daily budget because you know, like, okay, I can put aside $5 a day for this specifically, or setting a lifetime budget of, I'm willing to put $15 towards this ad set over the next week, and then review it from there. And that's also where you pick your audience. So this is the who's going to see your ad. So for example, if you look at these here, this would be targeting of people who look at Etsy and have Etsy stores. Maybe they're researching Shopify's and they're probably Facebook page admins. This one would be incredibly broad audience. This is probably a duplicate of an existing audience that I had. And then this would be a location-based one. So all of these ad sets here are within that main campaign. So if I had selected engagement, all of these would be working towards engagement here. But the budget would be different for each. However, you can also select campaign budget optimization if you've seen that. That's when the budget is here and will be split between these three. If you've been doing a lot with ads, you've probably seen that and how Facebook is talking about changing and then changing their mind, at least as of now, late 2019. But I'm guessing that it's not going to stick or come back. So for the meantime, just stick with budget at the ad set level here. All right, and that is the second part of the structure, which brings us to the third part of the structure, and that's where your actual ads are. So that's what these testers are. And each one of these ads is going to be placed within that ad set. Now, these are all going to be shown to that same audience within that same budget. So let's say you put $100 towards each one of these. That $100 is going to be split between these 3 ads, optimized towards the best performing. That's why it's good to start with 2 or 3, or just have 2 or 3 ads ongoing within an ad set, so you can see how the copy is doing, how the images are doing, and let your audience have a little variety. For example, maybe it's a video and then maybe a still image. And that's a big part of what makes up the ads. It's the copy and the visuals. So this is where your images are, or your videos. And again, that's where the spend is. It's within this ad set here. So that money will be divided between all of these individual ads. Now, the bid process is what makes Facebook advertising unique, and it's a bit of a programmatic part of the process of the system. So you do a lot manually here. You set up a lot of the advertising manually, but the actual software behind Facebook takes over with this bid process. So within your audience, let's say you have the location selected. And so when people are scrolling through their screen, you are bidding for a space on that screen here. And when you are placed on that screen, based on the keywords you've selected, the locations, the budget behind, the amount of engagement that people are having with that ad, those sorts of things will have your ad more likely to be placed on somebody in your target market's screen versus another advertiser. So that's a really quick, really quick explanation for how the actual ads platform works. So ads is where your creative are. This is what people actually see, and it's the visuals here, kind of that last level, that bottom part that is behind, that is underneath these layers of targeting. So that is the basic structure of a Facebook ads campaign, and understanding those basic vocabulary words and where everything is will help everything else make a lot more sense as you're testing things out, as you're trying things, taking other classes or learning. Understanding the difference between a campaign or an ad set or an ad will really, really help you in the long run. So from there, I will take it to the third section in the 3x3. This is the final. So within this third section, we're going to talk about how you take your ads from good to great. So first and foremost, have a strategy that fits. This probably sounds very obvious, as a lot of advice on this is sounding, which is good. You know something is useful when you hear it and you think, oh, that totally makes sense. That's the goal here. I want this to make sense for you so you can apply it and have something to walk away with. So having a strategy that fits means that you'll have something that will fit your business. So looking at this funnel, this traditional funnel within marketing, I know that having these website funnels can kind of change what people think the word funnel means, but traditionally in marketing, this is what a funnel looks like. You have this top of funnel here where your cold audience is. You have this middle of funnel here where your warm audience is. And then the bottom of funnel here is your hot traffic. So maybe this is everybody who hears the ad on the radio station. And these are all the people who actually come into the car dealership and look at cars and maybe test drive the cars. These are people who would come back a second time and definitely have driven a car. And then those buyers just pop out at the end there for having purchased a vehicle. And that's really the basics of how marketing and sales work. The cold traffic is somebody who's never heard of you. This is where you can start introducing people to who you are, getting them to know you. Maybe you're familiar with the know, like, trust notion. So this is the cold traffic of getting them to know you. Who are they? Who are you? What's your product? What's the first time they're seeing your logo? Are they watching a video where you talk about your service? Or are they seeing a video of how your product works? Next is having people like you or getting them warmed up into that middle of the funnel stage. So that is having people come to your website or watching another video even further, maybe choosing to like and follow your page, or at least engaging with several pieces of your content, commenting on your ads, liking them because they're interested in what they're seeing. And yes, page likes and comments, engagement, it doesn't necessarily equal sales, but this is why it's so important. This is why it's part of the process. That's why, having 10,000 Instagram followers might not make you $1 million or be the big thing as far as they're often referred to as vanity metrics. However, they are important towards getting you towards that sales interaction, towards having a good experience with your customers and potential customers. So finally, from there, getting people to trust you is that hot traffic. That's where people add an item to their cart, or they get on that phone call with you and hear the sales pitch. That's where they're deciding if they are willing to do business with you, to buy that product or to take your coaching session. So that is a little bit of the traditional funnel method. And you want to figure out, having a strategy that fits is having one where you figure out where this fits your business. So take a look at this, the know, like, trust, or the cold, warm, hot, or the top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of the funnel, and decide where you're at with your business. So if it's a product-based business, maybe the first thing is they see a picture of it, and then you retarget those with a link to the website so people can go look at it and look at other products. And then you retarget those with a coupon for the hot traffic. What is your strategy that's there? Once you have that, it's very simple to then take that strategy and place it into the Facebook advertising tool. This new technology of Facebook advertising was designed specifically from this same concept. The way that the ads are lined up, the 3 objectives for each campaign takes you through. The first one is for that cold traffic, that no factor. That middle one, the awareness. That middle one is the consideration of getting that warm traffic. And the final is the conversion, that hot traffic, making that purchase towards the end. So understanding this traditional structure, creating one for your business, and then applying that strategy to your Facebook advertising with combinations of every other type of marketing you're doing is how you really take a good plan, a good ad, or a good strategy and make it great. How this applies to lead generation, perhaps the first thing here is somebody seeing a video of you talking into your phone, or a professional video explaining the services that you offer. And then you retarget those people with a few offers to visit your website, or maybe sign up for a webinar, or download a freebie to get to know some of the content that you have. And finally, that hot traffic will be people who jump on the phone with you, have a sales call. Maybe it's a coffee meeting, or somebody who's looking for prospective real estate agents to help them out, something to that extent. So that is how this process could fit parts of your business. So make sure to write this down and figure out what the strategy is for your business. The next piece of this is to think about buyer behavior and remembering, how do people make that purchasing decision? How do people shop? So when you're going to a store, you might be looking at several different pairs of shoes. How do you go ahead and decide which pair of shoes to buy? Do you try some on? Are you looking for a specific brand? You need one that has availability in your size. If they're work shoes, maybe you need them to have specifications that fit the workplace. What are those pieces of decisions that you make? You probably aren't just beat bopping along and somebody walks up to you with a pair of shoes and you hand them $20, grab the shoes, and you're happy to go on your way. So that's something to keep in mind too, is even though you're on a computer screen, even though you're using technology, you're talking to people. Think about what you would say and what you would do and how that process would look if somebody came into your store. Are you that person in the middle of the mall kiosk that's asking everybody if they want samples? Or are you that store that's beautiful and warm and inviting, and you have samples on the side, and you have people there who are ready to answer questions, and all your products are there for people to learn about and play with and decide if they want? Or are you the store where people walk in and all the employees are hiding in the back chit-chatting, and they won't help you look for anything, and when you finally get help, they don't have the one product you need? We all know these experiences. So take that good experience, provide that good purchasing experience for your customers and how they decide where they're at. It's very unlikely that you could boost a post for $5 and people would buy products off of it. That's kind of like going to the grocery store and, buy my product. But I go off on a rant about that. I apologize, but hopefully that analogy will help you. Hopefully a light bulb has gone off in your head of how you can do something now, that strategy with your business. And also brand recognition. That's why you see so many advertisings for like Coca-Cola or like a dog food, or the Budweiser with the Clydesdales. It's just having that brand recognition. Or to walk a dangerous line here with politics, but when you see people's signs up and then they just have the name, they don't have any information about it, it's just the name. And a lot of that thought process there is when you go to the voting poll, you will pick something that sounds familiar. You'll circle the name that you've seen the most because it sounds familiar for some reason. That is where a big part of Facebook advertising comes in play, but you don't have to spend hundreds of thousands on TV commercials so that someone will pick your drink over another, for example. So, anywho, taking it from good to great requires having a strategy that fits, and this could be true for any type of marketing you do. So with that, let's go ahead and go on to the second piece here. If you need to take a break, pause, go get a cup of water, take a drink of water myself. I'm all about making sure you stay hydrated, because this here is my absolute favorite section. This is the optimization, which is all about data and analytics. And it's so, so, so special that Facebook advertising has this capability. I first got my start in the advertising industry selling ads for a newspaper. And one of the most common questions that I would be asked is, does it work? Do people even look at this? And I could tell them, yes, definitely. And I could tell them how many newspapers were printed and how many places we put it and how many people walked by them and read them. But I didn't have any capability of saying, well, this many people will see your ad, and this many people will come to your store because of your ad, and this many people will make purchases off your website off your ad. You just couldn't do those kinds of things. And that is what is so, so, so powerful about Facebook advertising is all the data. You'll have more data than you ever need, which is really, really cool. That's how you can get so good at Facebook ads and be so successful there. So diving back to knowing what that intent is and coming to your numbers for the first section, the second part, those KPIs, key performance indicators. What are the important factors for your business that will matter? I mean, yes, sales is definitely part of it, but that's the very end goal. So in that middle, so that would be the bottom of the funnel. So in the middle of the funnel or the top of the funnel, that cold traffic, what are the key indicators there? Is it getting the engagements, the comments, or video views if you're having that video view strategy? Make sure that you know what your KPIs are so that when you're looking at the data, you know exactly what to look for. A good example is click-through rate. Click-through rate is a very, very common and important KPI. This means a higher click-through rate means that a higher percentage of people who saw your ad clicked through, which is good. Oops. The next part of this data that really helps is finding those bottlenecks, or really that log jam. So this is something that I hear incredibly often is people say, I tried Facebook ads and it didn't work, or, it's not working. But that doesn't necessarily mean anything. You can't take action off of that. And with the amount of data that you have and what's available, there's just no excuse for that. You can figure it out. You can figure out where those pieces are. So let's say, for example, you have, let's see, I don't think I have a whiteboard on here. But let's say, for example, you have a, oh, we'll have, let's see, so we'll go for the video. So let's say you start with a video, and then people watch that video, and then they get hit with another ad that has them click on it to the website, and then from there they go to a landing page, and then from the landing page they'll sign up to watch a webinar and get sent an email. So let's say you have 1,000 people that watch the video to 100%. And then from there, you show all those people the next ad with the link click, and of those 1,000 people, 500 of them click on the link to go to the website. And of that 500 people, you have 400 people that go to the landing page. But of the 400 people on the landing page, only 2 people sign up for that webinar. Does that make sense where the logjam is? That's where everyone is dropping off. That means that the focus needs to be on your landing page. Perhaps the button isn't clear, or a link doesn't work, or there's some kind of issue there. Similar to if you have 1,000 people watch 100% of your video, but then you only have 10 people click on that link click ad, perhaps you need to update that link click for who you're targeting, what you're saying, and making sure that it's really obvious. So that's how you use the data to really optimize your ads and get better at it. It's very unlikely that you'll just create your first ad set and it'll just work, unfortunately. It does happen, but doesn't always last for very long. Frequently, some part of it won't work, but you can fix it as you go. And that's how you really get great at Facebook ads, is checking them and understanding what those log jams are and clearing them so that you have a full, good process. In that same vein, do more of what works. Oops. If an ad is working, do more of it. If a specific link click ad is doing really, really well for one audience, use it for another audience. If your video is converting like crazy, maybe you if people are watching it, maybe you add the link into that video in the comments or something like that, or just do more videos. That's the other piece of getting, just being good at advertising, to being great. Go back and look at the past 12 months of things that you've done. What received the most engagements? What had the most views? What did people enjoy doing? And do more of that. You don't need to build a wheel every single time. And that brings me to, that's why this is a process. That's why it's not a set and forget or something that you learn once and you do it and you're good to go. It's this constant ongoing process, just like a business. But that's also why it works so well. All right, so that brings us to the third and final piece of this 3x3, the third part of the third section, and that is consistency. This is probably the number one difference I've seen in people who are good at ads and people who really are great at Facebook advertising. And that is this consistency. That means you check your ads every day or every couple of days. You can take the weekend off, but checking ads first thing in the morning every day, or maybe right before your lunch break, as well as tracking that data weekly. So coming in on a Monday or a Friday and just seeing week to week what's doing well. Is the ad suddenly performing really poorly this week, but you're only looking at the lifetime of the ad, and so you don't know that it's suddenly doing poorly? Or is it suddenly doing better and you need to turn off the other ads and focus on one ad that's doing amazing? This is something that you need to pay attention to on a weekly basis. Additionally, consistent messaging and imagery. This is part of your branding. Are you using clickbait and people are clicking on your post because they think it's something, they get to your website and it's not? Like, that's not good. You're going to have really poor scores for that. But the consistent here, using the same headline on your landing page as you use on your ad will really, really, really help. And using that same headline to label your image. Good stuff, I'm telling you. Also, I've seen a lot of success with the long game campaigns. There are people who sell a lot really fast with really high budgets, but that's very rare and definitely something that you want to bring on someone who's really experienced and really, really good at what they're doing. I found a lot more success for people to budget for the long game. They have campaigns that are ongoing for a long amount of time. If you have $500, spreading out that $500 across 5 months to start testing and setting things up probably will do a lot better for you than spending $500 in 1 week. So there's schools of thought there, and in some cases it makes sense to spend a little bit more money per day to get the data, but in other cases, figure out what you can do for the long run. Do not start and stop campaigns. And if you really have to, pause at that ad level there, that third level, so that you don't mess up your optimization. This is very, very common, and if it's happened to you, it's okay. Like, please don't worry, this does happen. But a lot of times people will set up an ad and they'll get really excited and they'll go gung-ho and they'll put these really high budgets on things and they know it's going to be great. And then life happens and they forget to check back and they keep thinking about it, but then they keep getting interrupted. And next thing they know, 2 weeks have gone by. They've spent $1,000. It wasn't any of the information that they wanted. They hadn't optimized it at all. And so then they freak out and they turn everything off, which basically means that you have to start over from scratch again. And that's part of that bid process where the software tool optimizes automatically for you. Although I do recommend still checking in manually. Human eyes tend to be pretty good, although the automation is also getting really good. So just make sure you're really realistic with what that budget is and that time frame. Keep consistent with checking it and keep consistent with what you're running, especially if you have a long sales cycle. If it takes 6 months for somebody to decide to buy from you, 3 months of advertising isn't really going to help you out right now. So just plan that consistency for you. People love to see that. You've probably experienced this like I have, but there's so many new businesses out there and people who are just getting started. A lot of times it can be concern. Do I want to hire an accountant who's only been working for a couple of months? What if they decide to change their mind in a few months? Or, here's a financial advisor who's younger than I am, or who's older than I am, or who's not going to be working in this for that much longer. How is this going to work? We all have these concerns of, oh, is this person just going to change their mind and do something else later? So by being that consistent presence for people and letting them know that you're here for them and that you're here to stay, just builds that trust factor a lot. And finally, the last piece I want to say about consistency is keep your Facebook advertising consistent with your other marketing. So when you're posting organically on Instagram, make sure that what you're saying matches the ads that you're running on Facebook and Instagram as well. When you are running an ad on the radio, make sure that you mention your Facebook and that you're doing the similar call to actions or the same objectives on both. You don't want to be saying, 10% discount here when you're on Twitter and saying, oh, 20% discount here on your Facebook. That's just, having that consistency just builds the trust factor. Say the same thing everywhere you are. And of course, this quote by Aristotle, it's true. That's it's plain and simple, but that's how I've seen people get really good at ads. So in summary, the first section before you start is to make sure that you determine your intention, you know your numbers, and you make a plan. The second piece is to understand the structure. It goes campaign, ad set to ads. And finally, from good to great. That third section means that you have a strategy that fits, you're prepared for optimization, and you're set up for good consistency. You should now be able to do all these things as well. Feel free to pause this and write this down. Circle different notes for these locations where you're at, or even print this out and handwrite it. Sometimes it's good to take a break from our screens. So I really, really appreciate you watching this presentation and greatly hope that you learned something today. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My email is rihanna@pancakedigitalsolutions.com here. You can visit our website at any time. There's a lot more information there, especially on our blog, about different marketing tactics, how you can include social media with your Facebook advertising, keeping updated on the most recent Facebook advertising things, as well as several live videos in Pancake Digital Solutions, and our group, as well as our YouTube page here. We have live trainings in there, usually at least once a week, with all sorts of tutorials for how to do these certain things. So if you want more information, please don't hesitate to reach out, and good luck on your advertising. Thanks so much.